On this edition of Art and Soul, we're joined by the legendary journalist, author, broadcaster, and now Substacker, Chris Matthews. Chris has a new book out, Lessons from Bobby, 10 Reasons Robert F. Kennedy Still Matters. We'll talk about that book, as well as his own Irish Catholic roots in Philadelphia, getting his start in Washington as a Capitol Hill police officer, yes, that's right, and how American Catholicism went from Bobby Kennedy to RFK Jr. to J.D. Vance. Also, would American history have been different had Bobby Kennedy lived? Did you finish your do your Substack?
I did it today. I had Ed Markey on.
Ooh, good.
And, Miles Taylor and Iris de Rud from the Dutch woman who was part of the American Revolution series by Ken Burns.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, I loved it.
She spoke about the role that the French played in our revolution.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, I love that thing. It's almost everything you see out there, that documentary, every film, everything is almost a rebuke to the politics of today. It's like you see these people, what they did back in the revolution. I mean, I think
so. I think it's a great aid memoir for our times. We have a disastrous president, and he doesn't seem to believe in democracy. He doesn't seem to believe in the person who has the most votes won. He denies as of today that he had lost Michigan 2020. He somehow believes he carried Atlanta and Georgia in 2020. Somehow he won Pennsylvania. I would like to ask his frisky MAGA people to list the states that he won that he didn't get credit for, because I don't think they even know where to begin. They just make it up. They don't even know how to make it up.
But it's such a contrast, just a sort of moral, political contrast from the founding all the way up through, Bush, Obama, the whole thing.
Oh, I just read that Thomas Paine gave away all the money he made on Common Sense, selling hundreds of thousands of copies. He gave it to buy mittens for the Continental Army, mittens.
Yeah,
they didn't even have shoes. So
anyway, let me do a formal welcome and introduction to Chris Matthews, our guest here for this episode of Art and Soul. I'm David Gibson. We're really honored and grateful to have Chris Matthews, a legendary journalist, author, broadcaster, and now highlight of his career, a guest here on Art and Soul, the podcast of the Center on Religion and Culture at Fordham. Chris, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, you're one of those people who doesn't really need an introduction, which of course means that I'm going to give you a long introduction anyway.
Lay it in, brother. Lay it in.
Chris Matthews was the longtime host of Hardball with Chris Matthews on MSNBC, which is now migrated to Substack. Check it out there. You'll find that link in our show notes. Substack, where all the great political commentators today truly seem to have gone. Platforms change, but the media stays the same. I should mention, though, at the start that to my mind, your most important accomplishments in this distinguished career would be graduating from a Jesuit university, Holy Cross, and receiving an honorary doctorate, I believe, from Fordham University. That's formation, as we call it in the Catholic Church. Chris was born in Philadelphia, and he knows from politics and, as you heard, from America's history, founding history, and ideals, and our reality. Served in the Peace Corps, and pivoted to politics. One thing, I was taking this off, of course, from Wikipedia. You served as an officer in the United States in the Capitol Hill Police?
That's right.
Briefly?
Very proud of that. Very proud of that. For 3 months.
For 3 months.
It was a patronage job. I was appointed by U.S. Senator Frank Moss from Utah, and then I finally demanded the appointment of being a legislative assistant, which I received that summer of '71. But I have to tell you that police experience resonates through me, especially after what happened on January 6th of 21 among those police officers. I understood the culture of those guys. They're working guys. They're a lot of commuting from West Virginia. They're not sophisticated liberals or anything like that. In fact, I think when they looked out at the crowd of mobs attacking them with flag poles and everything else, that they saw their own people. They saw the people they grew up with and who they knew as neighbors. And they realized, my God, America is coming to attack me. The horror of that. And that may explain the suicides of 4 members of the Capitol Police afterwards, in the days afterwards. It was, imagine looking at a crowd of people that you went to the Knights of Columbus with or hang out with, and all of a sudden they're coming at you with their teeth gnashing, trying to hurt you as a defender of the Capitol. And that was all because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
It almost really broke something, I think, that day. Just not, but it was a wake-up call, but also just psychologically, as you say, looking out at ourselves and like, what have we become?
Yeah.
I worked briefly.
He's a bunch of lefties or rightists from overseas. They're not illegal, whatever immigrants, but they're just regular people. They grew up with you, went to school with you, and now they're out to kill you because what? You are defending the U.S. government. You're defending the Capitol, the democracy. It's frightening that people will obey a call like that. It's frightening that there's an American out there who sticks his head up every couple of minutes and does it again and again and again. He's still lying about the 2020 election. No. He lies about the states he claims he have won. He didn't win. He can't find any evidence that he won. And the second administration, I think one thing, David, as we look at everything we see around us politically and governmentally, all the people in this administration swore to God that he won the election of 2020. That was the prerequisite to get the job. And Marco Rubio, no matter what you think of it, and I have mixed feelings on a lot of these guys. Marco Rubio, why would he make such an oath?
Well, I guess, and this gets to something. I mean, what we have. I mean, a lot of these guys, Marco Rubio, these were like what I would say up until a few years ago, normie Republicans, which I agree. But I mean, even J.D. Vance. I think J.D. Vance, and we'll get into the Kennedy and Catholicism and the whole thing because we want to talk about your book, but. J.D. Vance, when he came into the church, he had a very beautiful essay on St. Augustine and what brought him into the church and this kind of reckoning. And he called Trump America's Hitler. All of a sudden, I don't understand. He seems to be the biggest enigma of them all.
Or he's a fraud.
Yeah. I mean,
he wrote about the hillbilly legacy or whatever it was about how the Appalachian people have been embittered by history. And I understand basically the idea of that. It's the reason why if you're Jewish or you're Catholic or you're anything different, you can't do well once you get past or get into Western Pennsylvania. You get a situation in Kentucky and Ohio, places like that, who are very much ornery, angry, bitter, and he had that figured out. But the fact that he then went on to join them.
Yeah. That's it. I think he sort of seemed to reject that whole thing, and there's a very bracing book in many ways, but then he went to become everything that he had criticized in some way.
And especially, he's married this beautiful wife who's very nice, I think, and he married her. She's from India, I think, from South Asia, and it doesn't seem to bother him to be an against all legal and illegal immigrants. Yeah. Legal. He's against legal people that go through the naturalization process, which is wonderful, and they learn the American culture and our patriotic beliefs and our founding fathers' beliefs. And they do all that, and he still wants them thrown out of the country.
But again, and this gets back to the Catholic thing, because I want to talk about your latest book, The Lessons from Bobby on. But it's also, these people, the thing is, for Catholics, Irish Catholics, Italian Catholics, there are grandfathers, grandmothers were those people, were those immigrants not too long ago.
Yeah, I know that. Although in my family, I'm a mixture. I'm applying for my Irish citizenship as we speak. I'm trying to get it, but my
Plan B. Everyone needs one.
I'm not going to go over there for permanent, but. And my grandmother's a real orange woman from Northern California, Northern Ireland. My grandfather was a Brit. He was an Orangeman too with her. My grandparents on the mom's side are Shields, Conroys, and Quinlans, right down the line. I look like a Quinlan, it's been said. And they were really, we're talking about novenas. The churchy, they were churchy to a fault, not to a fault, but they were churchy. and it was all about the cardinal and what was going on in the church that day. And my grandfather once took us to church at St. Stephen's, which is a classic old downtown Catholic church on North Broad Street. Now, he took us to church. We were about 3 or 4 minutes late. He had us go home. He says, go on, because you could walk home in those days. The neighborhoods were safe. Walk home. I'm staying. He was staying for a second mass. That's my grandfather. So I mean, we were very Irish. My Uncle Charlie and Aunt Kathleen married. You know how they got to know each other? They were members of the Notre Dame Club of Philadelphia. Now, a million years they didn't go to Notre Dame. They were the Subway alumni. Now, people don't understand this old cultural stuff about what I grew up with. It was real. It was Bishop Sheen. It was Al Smith. It was.
But there was that thick. There was that
everything.
There was that thick culture. It was also a more working class. Again.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Let's talk about your book, Lessons.
Sure.
Lessons from Bobby. 10 Reasons Robert F. Kennedy Still Matters. And again, going back to 1968. What a pivotal year in so many ways,
it was my favorite year. And so it's with all its horrors, it was a magical year because it's when people emerged, G. McCarthy and Bobby Kennedy, and people emerged from the backwoods, basically, politically, and they said, we're going to stop this war. And the 68 convention in Chicago, inside the convention hall was breathtaking. Outside was horrible. I don't blame either side. I think the students were not even the students, the awful people throwing things with, razor blades and turds and things like that. They threw at the cops. What do you think the cops are going to do? And the cops were, of course, mad dog too. But it was a horrible exposition of democracy outside. But inside, the Democrats basically expressed it. If Bobby Kennedy had made it to that convention hall, it would have been one of the greatest moments in history, because even if he had lost, I don't know if he would have lost or won, but if he'd gone in that representing the anti-war cause, it would have been stirring. And everybody who was worth anything in the United States would have been watching and cheering for it.
But do you think that was a turning point? Do you think our history would have been different if Bobby Kennedy had survived and had been nominated?
I think one of my themes of the book, actually the theme of the book was that if you want America to be great, make sure it's good. If we're a good country, we do the right thing on civil rights, desegregating our country in the 1960s in Ole Miss and in University of Alabama. We did a lot of good things, and they weren't easy, but, we put a man on the moon, of course, but, I think we did the Peace Corps. We did a lot of positive things about trying to appeal to the world without going to war all the time. And I thought Bobby Kennedy going down to South Africa and speaking to the white kids down there and talking about the similarities in our country between the two countries, the Dutch and the English, and all of the histories we've had as a country. And I think working with the American Indians and poor whites, what was said about Bobby, which I think is his last tribute, was not what I wrote in the book, of course, but when you look at the funeral train that went from St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York, and that day went down to Washington and Arlington Cemetery, where he would be joined with his brother, you saw the black and white faces and the black singing, 20,000 people singing in Philadelphia at 30th Street Station, the Battle Hymn of the Republic. And you saw the white working class, obviously guys who've been in the military, standing at attention with their families in birth order next to them. Astounding statements of respect for Bobby Kennedy. I think he could have united people. I think if the Democratic Party was still then unitable, it hasn't had these years of working class anger and bitterness at the liberal elite, I guess. That hadn't happened. I think there's still a good chance to bring unity to the country, David.
Well, your first lesson, you have just great ones here. One is heal the divide. And I think we've become so polarized, and obviously I think the Republican Party is at fault. I mean, I just can't even figure out where they're at. But would a Kennedy you know, was there a reaching out to both sides that a Bobby Kennedy seemed to bring to things? Whereas it seems that Democrats in so many ways are isolated in their side, going further left one way, that there is no center left.
Well, the Kennedys had one thing going for them. They had the history of the New Deal and a lot of that memory of Irish and Italian and Polish people that were very loyal to the United Nations, the New Deal. And he could draw on that. And with the help of Hubert Humphrey and people like that, he could lay a claim to the working class white people for the Democratic Party. And the blacks, of course, were just coming up politically because of civil rights. And he drew a claim on them because of what he and his brother had done with civil rights. So there was a couple primary examples of history there that they could draw on. Starting in 68, in the general election, by 72, by 1980, the coalition had come apart. Ronald Reagan was able to get a lot of Irish and Italian and Polish Catholics to vote for him. Clearly, he appealed to them. He put his headquarters in Virginia. He went to the Statue of Liberty to announce his campaign. It was so clear that he was going after the Democratic Party as having betrayed its people, especially the immigrant people. And the people you're talking about, the people that came from Europe and whose parents didn't, grandparents, he was really saying, okay, you've been suckers long enough in the Democratic Party. Oh, now try something different. Try me. And he had an Irish name and he had a nice charm. And clearly he was able to reach Catholics. I mean, probably a lot of Catholics thought of him as Catholic. Like, you know what cultural Catholics are.
Yeah.
Like, let's see. Ronald Reagan is a classic example. But who was the football player for Buffalo?
Yeah, I forget.
He was the guy
Yeah, Senator, Representative Jack Kemp.
Jack Kemp. He's a classic Catholic. He seems like a Catholic. He wasn't. He just seems like, oh yeah, he's a Catholic. He's a jock. He's got to be Catholic.
He looked more Notre Dame than Notre Dame. Yeah,
he did. And I think that was a classic example.
So what would Bobby?
By the way, a lot of people today are not Catholic, but people think they are, like Kevin McCarthy, Baptist.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But also a lot of people.
Chris Murphy from Connecticut.
Good point.
Another prod, yeah.
But a lot of people are Catholic and nobody knows they are. I kept going around during the primaries the last time out telling people that Ron DeSantis was Catholic. They're like, no way, he's not.
Unfortunately, you're wrong.
Yeah, I know.
He really is.
But well, let's talk about the most obvious one, who I guess is technically Catholic. How did we get from Bobby Kennedy to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.?
I don't know. And I think it has to do with his history with drugs. Just to be honest, just a statement of fact. He goes to AA meetings. He obviously has had experience with drugs. He, let's see, somebody went to school with him at London School of Economics, and then later at UVA Law School. He said he was high on cocaine the whole time. Now, I don't know how you even graduate. How do you get promoted from year to year being stoned? I don't understand it. I mean, I had like one experience with, what do you call them? Stay awake pills or whatever they were, because I had one.
No dose.
I'm never doing that again because I know that's trouble. And I quit drinking 31 years ago. So I could see the dangers in these things, but he indulged and he has that strange look about him. And there's something about when you look at the guy, is he okay? I mean, I don't know what he's up to. I told him about the book. I called him up when I wrote the book and I said, I wrote a good book. It's positive about your father. I didn't mention you. Hung up basically.
You did?
Well, I did. I didn't want to prolong the agony. I just thought this was a nice thing to do, is call him up and say, I've written the book. So,
But what did he say about it? Nothing?
He was kind of like everybody in politics. You're stunned to hear from the other side,
Yeah.
I didn't rub it in. I found that part of him. In fact, the part that he goes to AA meetings is a very good thing too.
Yeah, obviously, but it is one of those things. He seems like such an an outlier, the fact that he's the most prominent Kennedy out there. Are there any?
Or Schlossberg. Don't forget Schlossberg.
Yeah, he's come up and coming. Also, the other thing, the other religious tradition aspect of politics I want to talk about are evangelicals. You worked for Jimmy Carter, speechwriter for Jimmy Carter. And, God bless him, God rest his soul, amazing career, amazing man. I remember that he was elected first born again Christian. Elected. He was evangelicalism back in 1976. But look at evangelicals now. It's Trump's base.
It's because, let me tell you about Jimmy Carter. I was with him all through the hell of the Iranian hostage crisis. And he was dare I say it, a pacifist. The fact is, all he cared about was getting those hostages home alive. And he allowed the American people to have the flags burnt, the humiliating of walking around with the hostages being led around with the masks on, and all that because he wanted to get them home alive. And if we went to war with Iran in any shape or form, he said the hostages would be killed. So he didn't do anything. I'm sorry. We were held hostage as a country by those hostages. No American president can allow that to happen. You have to at some point say the honor of this country, the integrity of this country, our diplomatic rights have to be respected. That's the deal. You better respect it. I'll give you 12 hours to do it. And to blow the country apart. You're going to have to do it. Because in the end, if you don't do it, you're going to have to suffer through one of these things over and over again. And any country can pull it on you. And the Ayatollah and his bunch decided that they could get away with it. They figured out we're dealing with a real Christian here. And this guy really will do anything he can to protect the lives of the hostages. So some people hear this and say they hate this, but my God, if you let the hostages become the primary and single reason you're talking about this issue, you're finished.
But that raises the question, can you be a real Christian and a president?
If you let them get shot up because we're coming in, and they may well have been lined up and shot. If Ronald Reagan or Reagan was smart enough, because I think Reagan, and I can say this in the aftermath, was sharp enough to fire the air traffic controllers in a way that sent a message to the bad guys in Russia that he's not a guy to be messed with, that Ronald Reagan will act. He will take steps if you screw with him. And as one of the people brought the message back to Tip and said, the Russians know they're dealing with a different person here right now, and they respect it. They do respect strength.
But I mean, so you have more Christian realists. You had George W. Bush. You had Barack Obama, a disciple of Reinhold Niebuhr, much more, all of a very Christian, a practicing Christian, but much more realistic.
Well, I think W got hit up. W was ruined mentally by the company of Dick Cheney.
So listen, we just got a couple of minutes left. I want to just get back to your book and also the comparisons. You're talking so much about 1968. You talk about it as your favorite year. So many people today look back and say, hey, things are bad now, but they're not as bad. Remember the 60s. Remember 1968, Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, Chicago, all of that stuff. How do you respond? Are we in? I lived through that year and that decade. And it was bad, but there's something truly unnerving about where we are today.
Oh yeah, I think when you have a president who puts it in the New York Times last Wednesday that all our elections are crooked. We don't have a democracy in this country. What an awful statement. Even to the men in that room, the Republicans in the room at the Kennedy Center, the Trump Kennedy Center, they all knew they got elected fair and square. They know they can win by a point, a tenth of a point, and it still matters. That's how Jefferson defined it. If you win by one vote, it matters. It really matters. They count. And he said they're all crooked. What? Eisenhower was elected by a crooked election. Reagan was elected by a crooked. Lincoln? What is he talking about? And they all sat there and let him make that statement that our elections are all crooked. What? And now he goes to war with a country that loves us, like Denmark, where they celebrate the 4th of July every year on their own in that country. They celebrate our 4th of July. And he wants to take a country from them, from Greenland, and what? And destroy NATO? That's what he wants to do?
So what's the future? I mean, will Trumpism survive Trump?
We're going to have to do some architectural redesign when he's gone. If he puts an Arc de Triomphe at the Virginia side of the Memorial Bridge, where you won't even see the Kennedy grave anymore from Washington, he'll blank it out. I don't know how much of this we can take down. Can we take down this monstrosity he's building in the East Wing? We can take the sign off of the Kennedy Center. That won't be hard.
Yeah, but morally, politically, where are we?
Morally, I don't think the Republicans can live with the fact that during this period of Cromwell, basically, this is Cromwell, they've had to swear allegiance to a man who says these awful things about our republic, about our country. And how are they going to say, yeah, I did say he won the election in 2020, even though he didn't? Oh, yeah, I did say that, that he's supreme in everything. I did say, oh, yeah, he did do what he did, including probably at some point the confiscation of Greenland. How many of these bended knees can they forgive themselves?
Oh, if we have midterms, if we have another presidential election.
I think midterm will be a big cleansing event. I'm pretty much confident it's 30 seats. He will be rebuked. I think he deserves it. And
is there a presidential candidate though in 20?
Oh, I know what everybody thinks about Gavin Newsom. He was an empty suit, but now he's pretty good. So what happened? I mean, he's gotten good at taking on Trump.
Yeah.
I wonder whether Gavin Newsom or Josh Shapiro is too indoorsy. He's not a dashing enough figure to be the kind of person to run against Trump. I don't know. I used to think the guy with the sun in his face. I wrote this once. The county with the sun in his, and you imagine like Roosevelt or Reagan out there in the sun, and then you think of the indoor people they run against, like L.A. Stevenson. It's always the outdoorsy, gung-ho, optimistic person that tends to win these elections.
Well, we got to find one of those, and they'll be going up against J.D.
Somebody Josh Shapiro's got to get used to the sunlight and get out there. And he's a good guy, obviously. And he did one thing about the thing we were talking about. He said in Pennsylvania, you did not have to have a college degree to work for the state government. That was a big statement in the divide. We've been sort of talking about the class divide. And the working class person, apparently 60% of the people who have gotten jobs since he said that have become the non-college people. So it's a good sign that he gets the message to stop being elite. It's really, when you're in the bubble in Washington or New York and you're on the west side of New York and you're talking, oh, I don't know anybody who votes for Trump. Oh, meet somebody. That's the first message. Get to know somebody who voted for Trump, and you'll be you're on first base. You'll have a chance of understanding America. Like I got two brothers that voted for Trump, one who's turned against him completely because of Ukraine, because he very much supports Ukraine. And the other one is just country club. All my friends are for Trump. Oh, give me a break.
Hey, listen, we got an American Pope now. His oldest brother is a Trump guy. His other brother is not. So, when the Pope is just like, when we have an American Pope and he's just like us, well.
Yeah, but he's Leo the 14th, though. He's pretty close.
Exactly. Exactly. Chris Matthews, thank you very much. The latest book is Lessons from Bobby, 10 Reasons Robert F. Kennedy Still Matters. Get it. Chris Matthews, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Steve.
I'm David Gibson, Director of the Center on Religion and Culture at Fordham University in New York. You can find us on the web at fordham.edu/CRC, and you can subscribe to Art and Soul wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Our producer for today's episode is Olivia Paust, and our theme music is courtesy of the Endangered Quintet. Music by Tim Kaya, lyrics by Roy Nathanson. Thanks for joining us on Art and Soul. Shed a tear for